All right, so today's topic is vector quantization. This is the unit 5 according to the syllabus. And in unit 5, the syllabus starts with the vector quantization. We have already studied that quantization is of two types, the scalar quantization and the vector quantization. Scalar, wherever we have the scalar inputs, that represents the scalar quantization, and the ones we have the vectors as input, that are the vector quantization. Now, whatever we have studied in the earlier lectures are relating to the techniques of scalar quantization. And now we are going to study about the vector quantization. So we have already seen the definition of vector quantization. That is, whenever we are using the input as the vector input, that is represented as the vector quantization. Now, if you remember, then in scalar quantization, what were we using? The source output was treated as the single sample, right? So each sample was treated individually, and that was the input for the quantization. But here, when we compare it with the vector quantization, we are not treating each sample as independently, but we are converting, or we are grouping the source output into blocks, and these particular blocks are called as vectors, right? So what we have, the input for the encoder will be the vectors or the blocks. You can call it as blocks or call it as vectors. Now, whatever the source output is will be the input for the encoder. This source output will be grouped into blocks or vectors, and this will act as the input. This will act as the input to the encoder, right? We will see it with the help of the block diagram also, and we will see it in the detail part, how it is going to be defined, right? Now, let's take an example. What we can treat L consecutive samples of speech. If we are working on the speech, then we can take L consecutive samples of speech as the components of L dimensional vector. Or if we are working on image, then what we can take a block of L pixels for an image, and then treat each pixel value as a component of vector of size or dimension L. So here we are working on L dimensional vector. We are working on L dimensional vector, and if we take the speech, we can consider L consecutive samples as the components of the L dimensional vector. Or if we take the image, we can consider block of L pixels for image, which can be treated as the component of a vector of size dimension L, right? This vector of source output forms the input to the vector quantizer, right? This is what I told you. The source output will group the data into blocks, and these blocks are called as vectors, and this will be working as an input to the encoder. Encoder of what? Encoder of the vector quantization. The vector quantization will be comprising of encoder and decoder, so it will work as an input to the encoder of the vector quantizer, right? All right, moving further, let's see. At both the encoder and the decoder of the vector quantizer, we have a set of L dimensional vectors called the codebook of the vector quantizer. Now, whenever we have the encoder and decoder in the vector quantizer, we have a set of L dimensional vectors. And what are this set of L dimensional vectors called? This set of L dimensional vectors is called a code book of the vector quantizer. Let's see where it is. See, up till now what we have talked about is, this is a source output, right? This is a source output. The output of this source will be grouped into vectors or blocks, you can call, and this we have an encoder. This is a vector quantizer, this complete. is a vector quantizer in which we have an encoder and a decoder. Now, in the encoder, you have the L dimensional code vectors, and the set of these code vectors is called a code book. So this is a code book. This particular is a code book, and this is what all these are. What these are code vectors. These are code vectors, and the set of these code vectors is called as code book. This is defined here, right? Now, moving further, the vector in this code book known as code vectors. I've already told you there also that the vectors which is present in the code book, they are called as code vectors. So we have seen what is code book, and we have seen what are code vectors. These are selected to be representative of vectors we generate from the source output. From where these particular code vectors have been generated? These are being generated from the source output, right? Each code vector is assigned a binary index. Now, each code vector is assigned a binary index, and the encoder, at the encoder, the input vector is compared to each code vector in order to find the code vector that is closest to the input vector. How? Let's see what happens. This is the source output. This is the source output. It is grouped into vectors or blocks, which is working as an input for the vector quantization, for the vector quantizer, or for the encoder of the vector quantizer. Now, these are all what? These are code vectors which are generated from this source output. And with the correspondence to these code vectors, we have a binary index. You can see here, this is an index, and each code vector will have a consecutive or corresponding binary index with it. Now, the input will find the closest match for the code vector and will be represented here, right? This binary coder, this is what? This is binary coder. These two are binary coder, and that can have as log base 2k, log base 2k bits. Okay, so this is what? This is the binary coder, and these code vectors, these two are code books which are same in the encoder and the decoder side. So this is of L dimension code vector. This is of L dimension code vectors. L dimension code vector. All right. Code vector. Now, just moving back, we see what? We have already seen at the encoder, the input vector is compared to each code vector in order to find the code vector closest to the input vector. The elements of this code vector are the quantized values of the source output. In order to inform the decoder about which code vector was found to be the closest to the input vector, we transmit or store the binary index of the code vector. Because the decoder has exactly the same code book, it can retrieve the code vector given by its binary index. Now what happens when we have find the closest match for the code vector in the input of the encoder? Then what does it do? It just transmits to the decoder as the binary index, and it already have a same code book which is at the encoder end. So the same code book is present here, and it is now easier. We have transmitted the binary index. We have transmitted the binary index at the decoder level. Now it is easy to find the corresponding index of the code vector with the help of the lookup table. And then we are going to unblock these particular vectors and finally we get the reconstruction data, right? So this is how the vector quantization procedure takes place. So this is what we have in vector quantization procedure. I hope you must have understood. Now there are few points that we have to remember in vector quantization. What is that? Although the encoder may have to perform a considerable amount of computations in order to find the closest reproduction vector to the vector of source outputs, the decoding consists of a lookup table, right? Now you can see that what we are doing, we are going to, in vector quantization, lot of computation will take place at the input end. That means at the encoder end. Why? Because they have to find the closest match for the code vector. And this is the maximum amount of computation that is taking place. But at the decoder end, very less, considerably very less computation is being taking place because it has already got the lookup table with the help of which the index is transmitted and codebook is already present in the decoder, same as the encoder codebook. So the computation at the decoder level is very less. So that is an attractive feature for the vector quantization. So this makes vector quantization a very attractive encoding scheme for applications in which the resources available for decoding are considerably less than the resources available for encoding. Now, whenever we have an application in which we have less resources at the decoding part as compared to the encoding part, then these are very successful quantization because lot of computation is required at the encoding part, but very less computation is required at the decoding. So very less resources will be applicable. Now, next point, which is again very important, the optimality of vector quantization is more as compared to the scalar quantization. Why is that so? Because here we are considering the sample as a block or as a vector, while in the scalar quantization we were working at the source output as the independent or as the single symbol. So that was the main point for vector quantization. So I hope you must have understood what vector quantization and how the vector quantization procedure takes place.